The drama begins when Priya is rocked by news that Joel Marshall, Max Murray, is set to be released. Determined to protect Avani Nandrahart, Aaliyah James, she tries to reassure her that Joel won't be living nearby and insists there's nothing to worry about. However, Avani isn't convinced. Still struggling with everything that's happened, Avani asks to see Ravi, but becomes increasingly suspicious when she's repeatedly refused. As questions begin to mount, Priya finds herself under growing pressure. Elsewhere, Cindy Beale, Michelle Collins, recruits Priya from the car lot and ropes her into helping organize the upcoming engagement party at the Vic. Working alongside Jean Slater, Gillian Wright, Priya attempts to distract herself from her mounting worries, but things soon take an emotional turn. During a conversation, Jean unintentionally hits a nerve and leaves Priya visibly upset. Trying to comfort her, Jean encourages Priya to open up about what's really bothering her. In a moment of vulnerability, Priya makes a shocking confession and finally admits the truth about Ravi. While the details of her revelation remain under wraps, it's clear Priya immediately regrets letting her guard down. Realizing she may have said too much, she begins to panic about the fallout and what could happen if her secret spreads around the square. As tensions rise, Priya later finds herself clashing with Cindy. The confrontation quickly escalates and catches the attention of Max, who steps in before things get completely out of hand. Keen to keep a lid on the situation, Max attempts to smooth things over, but Priya isn't backing down without a fight. Before leaving, she issues a pointed warning, leaving Max with plenty to think about. But the drama doesn't end there. Later, residents gather at the Vic for the engagement celebrations, where Priya makes sure all eyes are firmly on her. Making a bold entrance, she throws herself into the festivities and appears determined not to let her troubles show. However, her behavior quickly raises eyebrows. Priya openly flirts throughout the party and even directs some attention towards Max, something that doesn't go unnoticed by Cindy. Already wary after their earlier clash, Cindy begins to suspect there could be more going on than meets the eye. With Priya's secret hanging in the balance, Cindy asking questions and Avani growing increasingly suspicious, it looks like the walls could be closing in. Has Priya revealed more than she intended? And if the truth about Ravi gets out, what impact could it have on those closest to him? The atmosphere around Albert Square had been tense for days, but nobody could have predicted the explosive confession that would change everything. As whispers spread through Walford about Priya's increasingly suspicious behavior, even those closest to her began to question whether they truly knew the woman standing before them. For weeks, Priya had insisted she was protecting her family. Every lie she told seemed small at first, just enough to avoid awkward questions or painful conversations. But lies have a habit of growing, and before long, they had become impossible to control. It all began when Ravi noticed something strange. Priya had become secretive, constantly checking her phone before quickly hiding the screen whenever someone walked into the room. She was leaving the house at unusual hours and offering vague excuses that made less and less sense. At first Ravi assumed she was simply under pressure, but his instincts told him there was something much bigger going on. Meanwhile, Avani couldn't ignore the growing distance between herself and her mother. Every attempt to have an honest conversation ended with Priya changing the subject. She promised everything was fine, but her forced smile only convinced Avani that something terrible was being hidden. The tension reached breaking point when Priya suddenly announced she needed to leave Walford for a few days. Nobody believed her explanation. Even Martin, who rarely involved himself in other people's family drama, quietly remarked that Priya looked terrified rather than excited about her supposed trip. That single observation planted seeds of doubt across the square. Soon enough, Denise began piecing together strange details she'd previously ignored. Priya had borrowed money. She'd canceled appointments without explanation. Most worrying of all, she'd been spotted meeting an unknown man outside Walford late one evening. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some believed Priya was having an affair. Others suspected she was involved in serious financial trouble. A few even wondered whether she had committed a crime. The gossip quickly reached Jack, who warned everyone against jumping to conclusions. But even he admitted Priya's story wasn't adding up. As pressure mounted, Priya struggled to maintain the web of lies she'd carefully built. Every conversation became another balancing act. One lie required another, then another. Eventually, She could barely remember which version of events she told each person. The cracks became impossible to hide. Things took a dramatic turn when Avani accidentally discovered a folder hidden beneath Priya's bed. Inside were unpaid bills, legal documents and several letters marked final notice. One envelope immediately caught her attention. It contained paperwork connected to a loan Priya had secretly taken out months earlier. The amount owed was staggering. Avani's heart sank. Why hadn't her mother told anyone? When confronted, Priya desperately tried to snatch the documents away. "It's none of your business," she insisted. But the damage had already been done. Ravi arrived moments later to find mother and daughter arguing. As emotions exploded, the truth seemed closer than ever. Yet Priya still refused to explain. Instead, she stormed out of the house, leaving everyone confused and frightened. Later that evening, Denise tracked her down sitting alone in the park. For several minutes, neither woman gently asked one simple question. "What are you so afraid of?" The word struck a nerve. Priya's confident facade instantly disappeared. Tears filled her eyes. She admitted she hadn't been sleeping for weeks. Every day she'd convinced herself she could fix everything before anyone found out. Instead, she'd only made matters worse. Denise urged her to stop running. "You don't have to carry this alone." Those words echoed in Priya's mind all night. The following morning she made a decision. No more lies. No more excuses. She gathered Ravi, Avani and several members of the family inside the house. Nobody knew why they'd been called together. The silence was unbearable. Priya took a deep breath. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I've lied to every single one of you." Shock spread across the room. Even before she continued, everyone knew their lives were about to change. Priya admitted she'd secretly borrowed a huge amount of money after believing she could solve a financial crisis on her own. She'd invested the funds into what she believed was a guaranteed business opportunity. Instead, she'd been scammed. The investment vanished almost overnight. Ashamed and terrified, she'd hidden the disaster from everyone she loved. Rather than asking for help, she'd taken out more loans to cover the first debt. Then another. And another. The cycle spiraled completely out of control. Collectors had begun threatening legal action. Some had even contacted her directly, demanding immediate payment. Priya confessed she'd been meeting one of them in secret, because she feared they'd embarrass her family if she refused. The room fell silent. Nobody expected the truth to be so devastating. Avani fought back tears. "You didn't trust us." Priya couldn't answer, because deep down she knew her daughter was right. She hadn't trusted anyone. She'd convinced herself admitting failure would destroy everything. Ironically, hiding the truth nearly did exactly that. Ravi was furious. Not because of the money, because Priya had suffered alone while pretending everything was fine. He admitted he'd noticed something was wrong weeks ago but hadn't pushed hard enough. Now he regretted every missed opportunity to help. The emotional confrontation continued as old resentments resurfaced. Family members questioned why Priya had repeatedly rejected offers of support. She explained she'd grown so consumed by shame that asking for help felt impossible. Every morning she'd promised herself she'd confess. Every evening she'd backed out. Until there was no escape left. Word of Priya's confession quickly spread around Albert Square. Some residents expressed sympathy. Others criticized her dishonesty. Kat reminded everyone that desperation often drives good people into terrible decisions. Sharon agreed. "We've all made mistakes." Those words encouraged others to show compassion instead of judgment. Still, Priya knew forgiveness wouldn't come overnight. She had broken trust. Rebuilding it would take time. In the days that followed, Ravi helped organize meetings with financial advisors, while Denise encouraged Priya to speak honestly about the emotional burden she'd been carrying. For the first time in months, Priya no longer had to invent stories. The relief was obvious. Although the financial problems remained serious, the constant fear of being exposed had finally disappeared. Avani slowly began reconnecting with her mother. Their conversations weren't easy. There were tears, arguments, awkward silences. But there was also honesty, something that had been missing for far too long. During one heartfelt scene, Priya admitted the biggest lie she'd told wasn't about the money. It was pretending she could face life's problems alone. That realization marked a turning point. Instead of trying to appear strong, She finally allowed herself to be vulnerable. The confession transformed not only Priya but also those around her. Ravi became more determined to support his family. Avani learned that even parents can make terrible mistakes. Denise once again proved why she's one of Walford's most compassionate friends. As the week came to a close, Priya stood alone in the square. The same streets that had witnessed her months of deception now represented a fresh start. Her problems hadn't magically disappeared. Debt still needed repaying. Relationships still needed repairing. Trust still had to be earned. But one thing had changed forever. The lies were over. And while the truth had shocked everyone, it also opened the door to healing. Whether Priya can rebuild her life remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. Her emotional confession will leave lasting consequences across Walford. With families divided, friendships tested, and painful secrets finally exposed, the fallout is only just beginning. In true EastEnders fashion, Priya's shocking admission proves that the truth can be painful, but sometimes it's the only path toward redemption. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to EastEnders Spoilers Official.